Once you have checked the way in which your child is using their iPad through battery use, and you've seen which applications they're using, if you decide that they aren't using it in the correct fashion, what you can do is use something called screen time. Now, it's very easy to use. The first thing you have to do is go to settings, and once you're there you have to look for the option of screen time just here, and then you need to turn on screen time. Here you press continue, and then obviously as this is your child's iPad that you'll be using, you click on that. Now for this bit we're going to press not now because it's better to sort it out later, and again not now, and then we continue. Now the first thing we have to do is to put in a password. Now I'm just going to choose a very simple one for the moment, which is 9999. Then you have to repeat it. Now that means that there's already a lock for this on the iPad. Now when you're here you can see these 4 options as well as the change screen time password option. Now share across devices and set up screen time for family you can't actually do because these are iPads that are controlled by the school. Okay. Now what we're going to start doing is this. The first thing you should do when you use screen time is decide whether there are applications you always would like to allow. Now if you go to always allowed and click on it, you can see that at the moment messages, FaceTime and maps are always there. Now actually messages and FaceTime aren't important for us because as the children's iPads are controlled, then they can't actually use these anyway. And as you can see, you've had to put in the password. Now phone again is not important because we don't have that option on ours. Then what you might want to do is to choose, if you want, applications which the children can use because they are educational. For example, books you might want to add. Or you might want to add, for example, another important one for us is iTunes U. Now that means that even when you've put restrictions on the iPad, books and iTunes U will be easily accessible for them. Now all we do is we go back. Now we've chosen what is always allowed. The best option here, okay, for controlling applications on the iPad is actually Downtime. So we click on it and we activate it. Now you can see here we can either choose a timetable for every day, or we could even customize days. For example, you might want to customize Monday to Friday from 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock in the morning, and then Saturdays and Sundays all day. Just for ease at the moment, we're just going to choose every day. Now what we need to do now is to cheat a little bit. Now you can see that the time on my iPad is 10 o'clock on Monday the 7th of October, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a restriction from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock just so you can see how this works. So we change it from 10 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock in the morning, and we change it from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Okay, this is just to show you how it works. Now as you can see, I have chosen it for every day from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. You would do something different so as not to interfere with school learning. Then all you do is go out. Now you can see here it's changed. We've chosen our always allowed apps. Now if we now go out, you can see that suddenly everything's been turned off. Now as you can see, books hasn't, because that's one of the ones that we decided was educational. And then there are little things like home settings, clock, okay, Find My, iTunes U, as we decided, but as you can see the rest have been switched off. Okay. Now if we were to come back here, there is still one application that is still there, which is, can you see Safari is still there. Now if you wish to turn off Safari, all you have to do is go back to settings, you're back in screen time, and then can you see the one there that says content and privacy restrictions? Now if you click on that and you enable it, again you're going to have to put in your password, okay, then here you have allowed apps. Now here you can turn off Safari. And if we were to leave, you can now see that Safari has completely disappeared. Now the good thing about this system is that, for example, if your child comes up to you and says, "Mummy, Daddy, I really need to use Pages for my homework tonight." So all they do is they click on it, they can see that they're not allowed to use it, you press OK, you press ask for more time, and you can give them 1 more minute, or you can enter screen time password, okay, and then you can approve it for 15 minutes, for an hour, all day, okay. So for example, if we approve for 15 more minutes, we are now able to use the app, okay. Now this is an interesting way of controlling your child's iPad. Now, there are other options that we haven't looked at. For example, if we go back to screen time, okay, you could actually set time limits for apps. Can you see the one there that says app limits? Now, this one, you can add limits for different styles of applications. And it is, for example, if we were to do it and then to press next, you could actually give them, for example, you could give them half an hour with all the apps, and then after half an hour they would all become blocked. Personally, I prefer the one that I've already shown you. Okay, we're actually going to cancel that. And then you've also got content and privacy restrictions. Now, we've already looked at a little bit of this. Now, for this, the good thing about this is, for example, the iTunes and App Store purchases don't actually interest us because they're not allowed to buy anything anyway, as we control their Apple ID. We've already looked at the allowed apps. Now, again, you've got to use this very carefully because we already control the camera at school. They don't have FaceTime. But controlling things like AirDrop and Mail sometimes can stop your child from working. Now, I'm actually going to activate Safari now because otherwise I will forget. You've also got content restrictions. Now, this might be interesting, for example, if you don't want them to access certain websites. Now, how would you do that? You'd come down here to web content. And again, you can only allow certain websites. Again, that's very dangerous because then that really does restrict them. But you could limit the adult websites that they have access to. And there are other options here that you might want to look at. The same with music, podcast, and news, music profiles and posts, films, TV programs, etc. Okay. The apps, again, we control their apps, so there's no need for that. You might want to control Siri and the Game Center again, as it's not something they particularly use, and again, we control that kind of thing. Okay. Now, again, you've got the privacy options. Now, this is when they're using apps, whether you want applications to know certain things about you. There are changes that you can control as well. Okay. So again, this option of screen time is actually a very interesting option, especially for the always allowed section and also for downtime. However, as you are aware at school, we do believe that the vast majority of the students do use their iPads well. And so this is only to be used for children that maybe become addicted to certain apps or maybe abuse the amount of time they are on their iPad for. And remember, always talk to the tutor about it. You can also talk to the school psychologist if you're worried. But be very careful when you're putting these options on the iPad, because remember, if you forget to take them off, or if you manage them inadequately, it does mean that when they come to school, they won't be able to use their iPads correctly. Okay, thank you very much, and if you have more questions, feel free to get in touch with us. Goodbye.